and Friends, where those of us from the video game and comic book store, Level Up Entertainment, get together each week with some friends and discuss something we're passionate about. This week we're doing the just released Godzilla versus Kong. Just came out on HBO Max a couple of days ago, and we have some thoughts and would like to discuss them. I'm your host Scott, and joining me this week I've got Kendall.
Hello.
Let's get the non-spoiler stuff out of the way so we can just get right into spoiler discussion. I love this movie. At least in the initial afterglow of watching it, it might be my favorite of the legendary MonsterVerse movies. I don't know if you feel differently or not.
No, definitely best of the monster verse, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, it knows what you want, and instead of holding that back, it delivers, and then is also setting other things up to deliver.
Yeah, it basically gave me exactly what I wanted from it. And I guess we'll cut spoilers, we'll spoiler free stuff here so we can just get into it now. I will say I did watch it on HBO Max at home. It is in theaters now. It's something I may try to see in theaters before it leaves it, just because you get the nice big screen you want it with something like this. But even then, like the home viewing was still very enjoyable. Like something wasn't lost just because I'm not seeing Godzilla like tower above me.
Yeah, and in all honesty, most of the Godzilla movies I've seen at home.
Yeah, I mostly see them on I used to see them on like Sunday mornings on USA or something random.
Yeah, Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of, they did say they were going to give us a definitive winner, and in this movie, and I guess they did.
They sure did.
Yeah, so no surprise, Godzilla beats King Kong. Just in terms of abilities, like there's no way, Kong's just essentially a giant ape. I know they had to scale him up and give him a magic axe in order to stand a chance, which I thought was awesome. So
yeah, I'm not beholden to King Kong lore, so I'm about it.
I mean, I love the King Kong movies, but yeah, this is a totally different version of the characters and stuff. But yeah, I love it. Gave me exactly what I wanted. They fought on like essentially Godzilla's home turf in the ocean, which he was able to beat Kong very well since he's basically built for that. Then they fought so first round goes to Godzilla. Then they fight again in Hong Kong, and it looks like Kong beats him. So then so you get to see like King Kong also winning. But then Godzilla rallies and just like annihilates him. And then the secret new big bad of Mecha Godzilla is revealed, and they have to team up to fight him, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the human characters were mostly not offensive. I feel like they weren't really like too intrusive. They moved the plot along enough. I think this movie really helped by like Kong being one of the protagonists. So even when there wasn't like a giant monsters like fight scenes and stuff, like the kaiju were always like kind of front and center in the story. And I know you haven't seen Skull Island, right?
No, haven't seen Skull Island.
I finally saw it the night before in preparation for watching this version. And like he's less like front and center in essentially his own movie, but in this they gave him like he had learned how to communicate in sign language, and because of that, like he does get to interact like with me more meaningfully with the human cast, which I think goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like in that first movie they established he's like the last of his kind, so like they kind of establish his like loneliness and like why he kind of interacts with a lot of the people in that movie, and that kind of follows up on this. I don't think you needed to have seen. I don't think you need to see any of the movies before this to really like enjoy this one. Maybe King of the Monsters.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that one's like definitely most closely connected
Yeah.
continuity wise.
At least since Millie Bobby Brown is like a main character in both of those movies.
Yeah.
She's essentially the only real returning character in this, other than like King Ghidorah, one of King Ghidorah's heads. Because yeah, like Apex, the robotics company that makes Mechagodzilla, I think they were teased at the end of King of the Monsters, like, and they were doing like snippets of newspapers and stuff, like kind of
Mm,
explaining like the aftermath of that world. And I'm pretty sure they mentioned there because I know I got the idea. I was like, and that I was like, oh, they're setting up Mechagodzilla for the next one, you know, which surprise is kind of like the last classic Godzilla thing that they didn't do yet in this, other than just space aliens, but they imply that Ghidorah came from space.
yeah. Well, I guess let's like I mean, we don't gotta go bit for bit, but
Yeah.
let's like take it from the top because
Yeah, sure.
it's easy to like
Bounce around on.
bounce around. How does this movie even start? Starts on the fake Skull Island, right?
Yeah. So they were doing so in Kong's movie, they had kind of they used a lot of pop songs. It has a very lighter tone than the other two Godzilla movies, which I was wondering how they were gonna like kind of meld that together in this one. They still keep like the music and stuff with the Kong thing, the Kong scenes, which I thought was cool because yeah, it starts off with like Kong's waking up, he takes a shower in a waterfall, and like kind of see his morning routine. Um, and then yeah, he throws a tree at the sun, and he realizes it's like a fake sky. They've kind of like encapsulated Skull Island to hide him from Godzilla, which
Yeah,
makes some sense because the Kong movie took place in like the early 70s, so they knew about him way before Godzilla showed up in 2014.
yeah, and it makes a lot of sense that like the government would you know
Yeah, but like
take these precautions and like
and they established in King of the Monsters that like they basically been containing all the monsters throughout the world, either keeping them like dormant or just doing something to make sure they're not like running amok. And then the humans screw that up in King of the Monsters, so they all get loose, and Godzilla needs to put them all in their place. It is funny in the opening credits, they show like the monsters that each Godzilla and Kong like beat in their respective movies, and Kong gets like one because he only really fought a couple of things. And then Godzilla has like 100, and they kind of like display it in a way that's like a bracket, and they're the final two. But like Godzilla really killed a lot more like impressive things.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, he has uh a more impressive like roster of
Yeah, there's
bad
so many
guys.
Godzilla movies versus there's only a handful of Kong ones, including ones that have Godzilla in them.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So one interesting thing I thought, so after that we get introduced to Bernie, who
Yeah.
he's played by Brian Tyree Henry, who's like great actor.
Oh,
If anyone
I'm not familiar with him, so
no,
yeah.
you didn't even recognize his voice.
No, what's he from?
He's Miles. He plays Miles's dad in Spider Verse.
Oh, yeah, I didn't remember him.
Yeah. He's
I
also
didn't recognize him rather.
he's also in Atlanta.
I haven't watched that.
Yeah, it's It's a really interesting show.
I mean, I like Donald Glover. It's just something that's been on my like list, but it's just it comes on a channel I don't normally watch.
I think you can watch it on Hulu. It's only 2 seasons.
I see. I don't have Hulu, but
Ah.
anyway, okay. I thought his character was a little annoying in this, but mercifully, like a lot. I didn't think the human characters were that intrusive in this one compared to some of the other ones.
Well, in this, instead of like reacting, I feel like they are kind of driving, not so much Bernie and Millie Bobby Brown's character,
Mhm.
um, but I feel like the other Dr. Lind and
The little
the
girl.
the folks with the Hollow Earth, they kind of are driving the plot along a little more.
It helps that they are actively with Kong. Like he's essentially a part of like their little group, whereas like the Godzilla characters are just the human characters.
Yeah, like they're reacting, whereas like the Kong characters are kind of like driving the plot a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Hollow Earth, I remember they briefly mentioned it in King of the Monsters.
Yeah, they also bring it up in Skull Island that's like they discover in that's part of that network.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's the thing they've been doing. This is the first time we got to see it. And Hollow Earth theory is like a really old,
Yeah,
kind of
conspiracy.
stupid thing, but it's kind of an interesting way because they explain like that's how Godzilla can get around the world so fast, is using like that network of tunnels and things. It kind of they incorporate it in an interesting way into like this monster verse lore that they have.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, so it's like yeah, they establish like Kong's probably all the Titans are from there originally. So there's like a power source that the bad guys discover in there that they want to utilize, and they kind of trick everyone into they kind of trick into the people that handle Kong, like kind of have him lead them there. Which of course, now that he's out and about, they get the attention of Godzilla, and that's where we get the first big fight
Yeah.
out in
What
the
did you
ocean.
think about this ocean battle?
I thought it was really cool. I like how so they have like this big naval fleet as well, which so it's cool to see like granted the army and stuff never do well against Godzilla, but they do establish in these movies that like he's not completely impervious to them. Like they will kind of like he reacts and they do drive him away a little bit. So I think it's cool when they team up. In the previous movies they teamed up with Godzilla to help fight like Ghidorah and stuff, and this one they're like kind of trying to drive him away from Kong. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So you called them the bad guys, and I mean they definitely are set up to be.
well, they set up they're the antagonists of this movie.
Yeah, I
Building
kind
Mecha
of
Godzilla makes sense in their world. I get it.
yeah, I feel like that was maybe a missed opportunity. Like granted, like I like that the movie doesn't run super long.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't need every movie to be over 2 hours. But I do think there was a missed opportunity with especially seeing where the Mecha Godzilla stuff went,
Mm-hmm.
um, to make those villain characters a bit more realistic.
Yeah. I mean, again, we also are arguing that like characters are 2D in a Godzilla movie. Not that I'm trying to use that as an excuse. They can always do that. Especially since like if you compare like these movies to Godzilla 2014, which tried to take everything so seriously and realistic, and like I made it so like they put their focus in the wrong directions. I think you can take these things in a more, for lack of a better term, like traditional movie route. Um, I think it could work, but I think they realized to lean into their strengths for this movie, which is like I think this is the first one outside of maybe outside of Skull Island, which really like delivered on the monster stuff. I liked King of the Monsters. It was more enjoyable on my more recent viewing than the original one. But like they do cut away to like the humans a lot as things start heating up. And
Yeah, but
it makes, you know,
I get like the humans in that movie aren't doing anything other than chasing Godzilla around.
yeah.
I don't know. They just like the villain was there enough, like, you know, I feel like there was an opportunity right before, you know, the big twist to
Yeah.
just be like, oh, this guy isn't just like a cackling madman. He like truly like wants to, you know, because it's hard to buy that like he's building Mecha Godzilla like for charity or something. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
feel like there was a
I mean,
chance to make like if he was like a philanthropist instead of like a corporate Mongol. You know what I mean? I feel like that would have been.
yeah, I mean, I guess they could have always like had some sort of like indictment of capitalism, like I'll protect the world at a cost or whatever. Because also that Mechagodzilla must have cost trillions of dollars to make.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
just like out of the kindness of his heart, like, or I guess it wasn't so much the kindness of his heart, but his like desire for like mankind to be like
To take, you know, to
at
be
the
the
top of the
dominant.
food chain.
Yeah.
And
Which is
like,
funny because like they established like Godzilla just has completely left everyone alone until they made this thing.
yeah,
Yeah. So
because
because it's like, yeah, it's just it's I guess it's more like the because they've made Godzilla less of like a nuclear deterrent like commentary in these movies and more just like a force of nature. Like it's these movies have more of a man versus nature kind of feel. And that also is in the Kong movies too. Um and you know, in the Kong side of it where like maybe like they're like humanity's like relationship with Godzilla is more antagonistic, whereas with Kong it's like more sympathetic and more symbiotic because in Skull Island, like, you know, he protects the inhabitants there from all of the other monsters that show up. um but like, yeah, I don't know, maybe that's more of like a, you can maybe look at the deeper meaning where it's something like that, like it's kind of the Jurassic Park thing where like you can't really control nature and it's foolish to try.
no, yeah, I just thought it was a missed opportunity to have, and I love a good mustache twirling villain,
Yeah.
but I do feel like this his motivations were not entirely selfish.
Yeah. I mean, I think he worked for this. That didn't bother me. That it didn't, to me, that didn't doesn't hurt this movie. But I do what you mean about it being a missed opportunity.
I don't think it hurt the movie, but I definitely had that thought. I was like, oh, like he could have been a little more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so the party with Kong after their first tussle with Godzilla makes it to Antarctica, which is an entrance to the Hollow Earth
Mm-hmm.
or something.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Hollow Earth?
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I really like that set piece.
Yeah, I like that. You know, it's you know, since it's the earth inside the Earth, that all the gravity's like it's basically like being the inside of a ball. So instead of looking up and seeing sky, you'd see like the other side of like the ground, and then, you know, the gravity like would like I like how they played with the gravity and stuff in it as you move around it, like you'll switch from side to side.
Yeah, I
And
do.
so
That's,
Kong fought a couple of monsters in there. Did you get like Batra vibes from them, or was that just me like looking for potentially other monsters?
huh.
They didn't really look like it because they were more serpentine, but like their wings looked like Batra's wings. But it was a good excuse just to have like another like monster fight, like even though it was only like very short amount of time.
Yeah. Huh. I wonder if that's yeah. Anyway, yeah. I didn't pick that up when watching it. But yeah, I was very stoked to see Kong get a couple wins, especially since I hadn't seen his movie, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, his movie's cool. I recommend it, checking it out. Um, not just you, but like whoever gets a chance, because I slept on it because I originally came out and I was like not super hot on Godzilla 2014. I was just like, it's so big, get to the theater. It's like a big to do. Now that it was just in my house on HBO Max, I'm like, oh, I have no excuse not to watch it. Let me watch it. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I love the look of everything they did in this movie. Like even setting like the last thing at the end of in Hong Kong is that city's got like a real like neon kind of like interesting look to it.
Yeah.
I thought was cool. Um, but yeah, so Kong's in Hollow Earth. He discovered, he finds like traditionally where his people came from, and we see lots of evidence of like their war with like the Godzilla race. Like he gets this axe out of the skull of a Godzilla, um, which is pretty cool. And obviously, then they discover like that kaiju power source, which then powers up their Mecha Godzilla. Because
Yeah.
the human company that went with them like betrayed them, and then
So my thing with that,
yeah.
what was her name? This movie did not do a good job telling you what the characters' names were.
Oh yeah, the main boss's daughter, whatever her name is.
Well, no, the doctor who works with Kong,
Yeah.
Eileen Andrews is her name.
Okay. What do you have the
Is the
IMDb
character's
page
name.
up?
She like that's another thing, like that like I wish they would have set these like this like corporate instead of like this corporation, if it was more of like a philanthropist like movement, because it's like, oh, this lady is obviously here to like do something bad.
Yeah.
And then like when she like it's like, oh, we're taking this, everyone's like, oh, what? And it's like, oh, you thought that this corporation was just funding this expedition for the sake of Kong? Like what? Like, of course they're like going to like exploit this.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, that's the only spot I feel like that the movie like its own logic could have been like saved a little bit.
It doesn't bother me too much because I think it what it does is more is just it facilitates the rest of the story happening. And again, it's a 2-hour movie, and like you said, it goes. I think it's decently paced. So like I don't know if I want to be bogged down too much with a lot of like rounding out these characters, which ultimately aren't gonna. They're not what we're here for.
I'm not saying round them out. I'm just saying like
I'm not saying we couldn't have a scene or two of that, but I get why they may not have thought to even want to, or not want, but like the thought that was it probably wasn't necessary. Does that make sense?
I just think instead of making them a giant corporation, you just make them like instead of making it LexCorp, you make it the Wayne Foundation or whatever the heck they're called. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
like, because so then like, I don't know. These people are doctors. Are they that stupid to not like see it coming when like they're betrayed? You know?
yeah, I know. It's silly because as soon as they're like, "Oh, we found this power source here. We want you to help us lead us to it," I'm like, "Oh, they're clearly just going to use it as a resource and exploit it." Like, I understand that. Yes, it is very predictable, but that in a movie like this, that doesn't bother me too much. Um, Especially since like we get to see them like experiment with Mecha Godzilla, which they've been kidnapping the monsters from Skull Islands, the Skull Crawlers, and like in what's essentially like a glorified cameo because it just annihilates them. Which again, if you saw Kong Skull Islands, you would see like, oh yeah, these things are like real, are Kong used to struggle with them, so it kind of helps establish how powerful Mechagodzilla is.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Kong was nowhere near as big then as he is now. Like 40 years later.
Um, but yeah, Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, this is about the part of the movie where we get introduced to him. What did you think of his design?
I thought it was a cool design. It's definitely a mecha version of
Like
you know,
this Godzilla, yeah.
this God's yeah. Like he's got like bigger arms and I thought it was rad.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I like that he had like all kinds of like cannons and stuff would start popping out of him. I like that he's able to move in like weird ways, like his arms can like twist around and stuff.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you
Yeah.
work that in there?
The guy mentions like not just Godzilla's equal, it'll be his superior. So he has like things that Godzilla can't do.
Like shoot missiles out of his back.
Yeah. But like it's got very specific Rim vibes where like so in King of the Monsters in the end credit scene, like they established that they have one of King Ghidorah's heads that Godzilla ripped off. The head that he ripped off in the earlier in the movie after the fight with Rodan, like that's what they use in that movie to show that like Ghidorah like regenerates and he grow another one. So like they're in its skull using like its like neural rebuilding network to like have a human pilot kind of run it. And then obviously once they introduce like the kaiju magic sauce from the center of the earth, it breaks free and like it runs on its own. So it's kind of implied that like Ghidorah's mind's in it.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool because like Mechagodzilla's rad, of course, one of my favorite, monsters that Godzilla fights. But to me, like Godzilla's ultimate antagonist is Ghidorah.
Mm-hmm.
And in this universe, they already beat him.
Yeah.
So I thought, if Godzilla and Kong, these like two alpha titans are teaming up, it's like it's fine with me that it's Mechagodzilla. I would have been totally like stoked.
Mm-hmm.
But like the fact that they in some way brought back Ghidorah, like
yeah, they were able to incorporate him a little bit. Part of me also was like, I wonder if they also made a Kong and that's like Mechani-Kong. And I was like,
that would be
because they're like, oh yeah, we know about him too, and then like they should reveal that they have that as well. That would have been probably a little too much.
Yeah, and also like in the context of this world, I get why like Kong has just been chilling on this island.
Yeah,
Godzilla's like the one leveling
like cities. Yeah, he's the one that's literally blowing up all of America in these movies.
Yeah.
Because like they just destroyed Los Angeles and Vegas in the first movie, Boston, and I think they imply some other places in the second, and King of the Monsters, and he just Pensacola, Florida in this one. Makes sense. It's an American-made movie. We're gonna focus on our cities, but I do like there's like a globe-trotting nature in King of the Monsters and this one.
Yeah,
which makes sense. The world's a lot smaller to these guys than they are to us.
For sure. I also wonder if that's I know a lot of these like big budget movies these days are made with like
the international market. Yeah, like there's the cynical part of me is like, oh, I think they set it in Hong Kong to appeal to China.
Yeah, because that's like the next biggest, if not the biggest.
I think it's the biggest one. That's the one they're always chasing the money for.
Yeah.
But like I said, at least it was visually very interesting. And it was,
I'm totally fine with that. But that was in my head. I was like,
it was in the back of my head. Like I can't help but think about that. When they're like transferring, their resources to their Hong Kong spot. I'm like, all right. But like I said, it was interesting. We didn't get a city like that in the other movies.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just like, very, visually appealing.
Yeah. And like
for the final showdown.
Yeah. So it's got, like buildings and stuff that like Kong can like jump off of and escape like through and like kind of outmaneuver Godzilla with, So because he's using his environment more, he's got tools and weapons. I love his Godzilla like dorsal fin axe. I thought that made it's something like those kinds of the Kong race probably would have made like it
Yeah,
charges up from the same energy source that Godzilla uses. So it kind of is like super powerful against them. It's awesome when after it lost its charge after they fought, and he's trying to fight Mechagodzilla with it. Godzilla's all knocked down, and he like blasts it with his atomic breath, and that's like kind of what saves the day.
yeah. Well, I feel like we skipped
Yeah,
the round 2 fight of
yeah,
Kong and Godzilla.
yeah. I mean, they just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but then yeah, that's when the clear winner is established in
yeah,
that fight.
yeah. Because Kong is essentially dead. They have to like change up one of their little sci-fi flying machines into like a giant like defibrillator and like kind of bring him back.
Yeah,
Because that's at that point like Mecha Godzilla and Godzilla are in it, and Mecha Godzilla is really killing like beating him up. But they also established like the two of them just fought like crazy. So I think they were all kind of not at their peak at that point.
yeah. Got Mecha Godzilla definitely had an advantage.
Yeah. Um yeah, the Godzilla and Kong fight, like it delivers. That's the title of the movie.
Yeah, for sure. I like that we get a winner.
Yeah.
Um,
I am glad, yeah, they didn't play it coy or like give us the winner in the way that King Kong versus Godzilla in the 60s gave us. It was just like they fall off a cliff and then Kong just swims away. I'm like, oh, they implied that he
Shoot.
killed Godzilla.
So I've always heard, but I've never seen that there are 2 endings to that movie.
It's not true. Um,
Okay.
it's just one of those things people like an urban legend.
Okay.
Um, I will say I think there was a couple of references to that movie in this one. At least just the really infamous scene where Kong shoves a tree down Godzilla's throat. Because I think he does that to the monster he's fighting in the Hollow Earth, I think. And like he kind of does that with his axe in this one, Godzilla.
Because Godzilla's trying to like shoot the
Yeah.
atomic breath,
And
right?
he's using because he's able to use the dorsal fin part of the axe as like a shield for it. Because they established like that thing will destroy Kong, which makes sense. But like I love the way they moved. I love the way that like they fought and interacted. I love that like Kong's more of a grappler than Godzilla in this. So he's like Godzilla's trying to get his atomic breath going, but Kong can like will move his
Yeah.
head and stuff around. Which again also gives you really cool like city destruction because all of a sudden that stuff starts moving and blowing up buildings and things.
Yeah. Yeah, that last fight, whew, it was cool.
Yeah, like I might watch it again while this podcast is rendering and uploading. Um but yeah, I really really enjoyed it. I can't overstate how much I felt that this movie delivered on the kaiju stuff.
Yeah,
Um
for sure.
I don't know where they'll go from here. I don't know if they can go anywhere because I don't know if like how Toho's rights and stuff, like what their agreement is and how that's going to work from here on out. I do know there was no after credit scene because I waited until the end of the credits. I was like, just in case. They're like, oh, it's like some space aliens are monitoring the Earth and like activate Gigan or something.
I would love, I mean, so talking Godzilla, the OG
Mm-hmm.
is like not even talking like kaiju movies. The original Godzilla movie is like fantastic.
Yeah, Godzilla, arguably the best movie of the bunch.
Yeah. I mean, that might be like that might be in my top 10 of like just films in general.
Yeah,
But
I don't know if I'd go personally that high with it, but I do really really like that movie.
I think it's amazing. But pretty much after that one, like,
Oh yeah, they immediately went silly with it.
Yeah, like Raids Again is still like, it's not as, it's still supposed to be like horror. But like,
But I think just the nature of him fighting another monster in it, like,
and like, yeah, like it establishes that like, okay, like there's more monsters than just Godzilla.
I
Um,
think it muddies like the nuclear allegory stuff when you start
yeah, like
doing that. Yeah,
it starts moving away from that.
yeah.
So, um, so yeah, basically, like once Godzilla gets like sillier and like just starts having more fun with its like world, like the aliens are probably my favorite thing about
Yeah, there's so many like humanoid races out there that just
it.
are super interested in giant monsters or just have giant monsters and just throw them at Godzilla for no reason.
Yeah. So I feel like that's like,
I mean, it's one of the last classic Godzilla like things that they haven't really used yet.
yeah, like in King of the Monsters, they said Ghidorah was from space.
They didn't confirm it, but they were like, it doesn't fit in our natural order. Like they were like, no, maybe it's from space. Like there's like lore for it because they talk about like how these things are like represented in cultures throughout the history. And they're like, oh, it's a dragon that fell from the sky, you know. So
Yeah.
that, but like, you know, we know that Ghidorah, classic Ghidorah, is from space.
Yeah. I'd like to see them start doing more.
I guess for
Like
lack of,
maybe not.
I don't want to say silly things, but like I guess less realistic. I think the space stuff would really open up a lot of possibilities. Like now that we've seen lots of movies with these monsters just fighting. Not saying like some new cool monster designs or anything won't also be cool because that's also like just Godzilla's bread and butter. But like now that we've seen Godzilla and Kong team up, I mean, do you want the like the Kai Justice League, like, and then them to have to all of the Godzilla and Kong and Rodan and all those guys have to band together, you know, now to fight something else.
I mean, I'm not against that.
I'm not
That's
against
my
it either.
favorite stuff.
Yeah, I think
Destroy All Monsters was
yeah, I think we talked about it before the movie came out, where it's like I kind of wish they saved Ghidorah until after like Godzilla versus Kong, and that was something that like, you know, you can stop King of the Monsters where like just all of the monsters are running loose and all of, you know, and Godzilla is just overwhelmed by them. Um, but like I kind of wish that they were building up to that because like as cool as it is to see Godzilla and Kong team up for against Mecha Godzilla, how cool would it be to do a modern Destroy All Monsters against Ghidorah?
yeah. I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they kind of just like with that second movie, they're like, okay, like,
Yeah, they like left no Godzilla like meat on the bone after that, really.
yeah, they're like, here's the like, there's plenty of other like kaiju they didn't introduce, but
But they
like,
used like the four main Godzilla monsters.
yeah, and
Yeah.
there's like, it's like, all right, like, what's left after that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean, you
like,
know, they haven't done like what, Anguirus, they haven't done Gigan. I don't think they would do King Caesar. I'm just trying to think of like the main guys.
what's wrong with King Caesar?
Do you think they would bring like Jet Jaguar or someone into it at some point?
I could see a, you know, especially like,
Being Millie Bobby Brown will be that in the next movie.
well, like especially after, you know, Mecha Godzilla existed, I could see like, you know, the military builds Jet Jaguar and it,
You think it'd just be like a mecha like Pacific Rim?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
with that color scheme.
Yeah, and you could probably have a similar look. I don't think it would have the same goofy face. Um because he's essentially just Ultraman anyway.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I don't know. They kind of like, it's kind of like that Dragon Ball problem, you know? Like it's like, oh, like he's the strongest guy on Earth. And like you said earlier, like Earth is like much smaller to these creatures than it is to us, unless like something comes from a hollow earth. They could do
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, they could. I guess this is just the ending. I like that Kong gets to live in Hollow Earth and Godzilla gets to live on like the surface.
Yeah.
Because they kind of, after they're done teaming up, they're like gonna fight again. And then I think they just kind of like, hey, we're not actually enemies, just leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. So I'm glad that they're able to like have different domains. And Kong essentially is happy at the end. It kind of gets what he wants.
Yeah, I don't think there was a reason for them to fight either. Like
Yeah.
Godzilla was only acting up because like
He's
he knew King Ghidorah was back in a way.
Yeah. And like, well, like the reason he was attacking Kong is like Kong's also like the next, because they established in the other one, like he's like the apex alpha, and like Kong is like a challenger to that. And they apply like they have this like ancient like history together, like they're peoples. So there might be like some sort of like because who knows how old Godzilla actually is. Because he could be like ancient. Um they do establish like Kong's like young in the 70s and he's like older in this one.
Yeah, but I mean, they also in their fight earlier, like even with his like magic axe,
Yeah.
you know, Godzilla still won. I feel like there's no reason for them to pick up where they left off.
Yeah. But everyone kind of gets like a happy ending at the end of this, except for the people
Mhm.
that died. So I don't know. I really liked it. There's no part of it where I was like disengaged or I was just like, oh God, get on with it. Cause the human exclusive scenes, I don't think they don't drag on much. And like I said, a lot more of the humans are much more involved with the plot. Like even though the Godzilla crew is a little bit more reactionary, like when they're learning information, we're learning information,
Yeah,
which helps explain like, like how Mecha Godzilla and those things are going to work.
for sure. And for the most part, they were like no one really annoyed me. Ricky Baker was pretty useless until the end there, whatever his name was in this.
Yeah. The Russell from Deadpool 2. Yeah, I don't know. Like he and Bernie are the kind of characters that like in a lesser kaiju movie would really annoy me, and I'd be like, oh my God, please just die. Like there's a couple of dudes like that in Skull Island. But basically once Kong shows up, like some of them don't die in the movie, where I was like, oh my God, I can't wait for some of these like comic relief like military dudes to die. Um, you end up spending a lot less time with them than I thought you would. Um, but that I think of the four legendary movies, I think that one has the best human characters. Where like when some of them were in danger or involved with the plot, I was more invested than any of the other ones. And I think that also goes into help like I guess because Kong's so much more of like a sympathetic character. Like, the half the humans like become on Kong's side versus the ones that want to kill him in that. And it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of people to really rally behind Godzilla as much. You know what I mean?
In this universe, I think it makes some sense though,
Yeah.
just because he like did save like the world.
Yeah, but like with Godzilla, you also kind of get the feeling that like he doesn't really care about people and that like
Oh
he's
yeah,
just doing that because like that's what he does. Like he's not doing like Kong in Skull Island, like the only reason he like attacks the protagonists and stuff is because they're invading his home. Um and like he does specifically protect the inhabitants that live there, which I guess the one thing that I probably should have warned you from Skull Island is like the natives don't speak in that, which is why the little girl doesn't talk. But like she gets to do the sign language thing, and then it's revealed that like because they established early on that she's got a connection with Kong. So
yeah,
established that like he learned sign language from her
which is cool and a
in secret. I think it
thing
was yeah
primates can do.
yeah, and like it makes sense, you
Yeah.
know, especially since like this kaiju in this world like has a connection to humans, you know, even though like because they established in the first movie like he definitely remember like recognizes individual people, like Samuel L. Jackson's the bad guy in that, like spoilers, but like the two of them are like, you know, his whole thing becomes like, I need to kill Kong. He killed my men. And he kind of goes off the deep end. And then they have like a big confrontation at the end before the final monster confrontation. Um, like, yeah, like Kong definitely recognizes him. He recognizes like the hero characters being like, you know, not as bad as everyone else. You know, since it's King Kong, like he kind of like helps save the woman and stuff in it, like, you know how it is. But I like that he's not like in love with them like he is in like classic Kong. Um, and we get a little bit of like a nod, I think, because he's like at the top of some big building in Hong Kong after he beats Godzilla.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
He
like,
like climbs to the top and then it like breaks.
yeah, I was like, oh, that's fine. I I'm glad that Skull Island was not like a retelling of like King Kong. Um, it's much more of its own thing with some
Yeah.
nods to like classic Kong stuff.
Especially we just got, you know, what, 10 years or
See, that was
I
two.
say 10 years
It,
earlier, but
it
who
was
knows?
2015. It's 2005. So 16 years ago, we got the not King Jackson. Oh my God, the Peter Jackson King Kong movie,
King Jackson, huh?
which I I get why people don't particularly like that movie. I really like it. Um, it is extremely slow. Like Kong Skull Island moves very quick. Like you meet Kong almost immediately when they get to the island, and it doesn't take them that long to get there. Um, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Um, I think it's I think it's one of the better. It's one of the more watchable Kong movies. I mean, I love the original one. I think it's like Godzilla. I think it's a legitimately good movie. And I know it's super influential for the time. Like that partially is what partially inspired the original Godzilla. So it's always interesting when they cross paths. And the original King Kong versus Godzilla is a really interesting like behind the scenes story to it. I recommend. You know, I'm not equipped to go into it right now. Um,
Yeah, I know. I think weren't the rights like illegally like they didn't really have the rights to Kong or something like that?
it's sort of like that, but you got because that one came out in '62, so I think there was only like three, maybe four Godzilla movies at the time. Like Godzilla was still like not like King Kong was a way bigger deal than Godzilla was at the time. Um, so I don't know. It's interesting. Again, I'm not doing it justice, but you should definitely check it out because yeah, there's a reason like he's powered up by lightning stuff because it was originally supposed to be the Frankenstein monster or a Frankenstein monster, not necessarily like you know the Boris Karloff one, but like another monster that Dr. Frankenstein made. Because the plan was originally Frankenstein versus Kong. It had changed through a lot of hands, both you know, in the U.S. and then internationally. And when Toho like was able to kind of get involved, like they wanted to really get involved with it. But like it's also interesting because it's like the American monster versus the Japanese monster. Even though like, and that's still sort of true in this, even though like this Kong sort of doesn't really resemble the original one too much. You know, think about it. The original King Kong climbed to the top of a building and was killed by planes versus Godzilla in the first movie is just unstoppable nuclear nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the didn't the electricity kind of like serve to like
It was the
balance
kind
them
of
out in the
yeah, it
original?
was kind of meant to do that. I mean, they also scaled them up because it's you know they're the same size. But that's
Yeah.
you know also they're suit actors, so it's like kind of can't get away from that. Um, I mean, unless you got a really small guy to play Kong, like you got some sort of kid in a suit to do that, but that's not going to be nearly as interesting to watch.
Yeah.
But
Um
that original movie's fun in a completely different way that this one's fun.
I haven't seen it in years because I know it's like hard. There's like some rights issues with it,
Yeah,
right?
because like Universal owns King Kong, and Toho obviously has Godzilla, which I'm realizing now, like these new movies are made by Warner Brothers. So like, yeah, I guess they had to do some other stuff to get through it to get these characters too. I wonder how available these movies will eventually be. I mean,
I'm sure there's like
caveat.
contractual protections against that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. The world's much different now for those kinds of things.
Yeah. Like
Um,
the whole like original deal with like the original King Kong versus Godzilla was like a little shady.
yeah, it.
Because like I think the man who like licensed Kong to Toho
Mhm.
just like he didn't have the rights to Kong, but he like
Yeah,
licensed it anyway. It's some weird, crazy story. I don't know all the details.
yeah, it's interesting. Like I would say, check it out. There's a YouTube channel that like goes in depth for all the Godzilla movies that I really like. Let me pull it up real quick. Big Action Bill. I was watching just some of his stuff just kind of over the past week just because I was getting hyped up for this movie. Um, and he did a whole big thing on the different aspect behind the scenes of the stuff of that, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And he obviously just published it to help like ride the wave of hype for this. Which to be fair is partly why we're doing this podcast pretty quick. But I legitimately was excited for it and wanted to talk about it, which is a big part of what this podcast is about. So fortunately, Kendall, you were able to watch it in time.
Yeah,
Join me on this.
I love a good kaiju.
I mean, we were supposed to do Zack Snyder's Justice League in a similar way, but like it's just so unwieldily long.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have seen that now. To go off on a bit of a tangent, it is a lot better than I think I was expecting it to be. It's too long. Like that's a movie that could never have come to theaters. Like it can only exist in streaming. But we'll save that for a specific podcast later this month. I know Wes really wants to talk about it, so I'm like, all right, we'll figure it out logistically, like who can join on that. But yeah, Godzilla versus Kong, loved it. I want to say wish I could see more, but like I kind of don't really need to. I got everything I needed out of this.
Yeah, I mean, the movie, it's like, it's not a cinematic masterpiece, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, as far as like kaiju big budget like summer blockbustery movies, like this is up there for me. Like the only one that I can think that comes kind of close is like maybe Pacific Rim 1. But like the human characters in that annoyed me way more, and like
Yeah,
human
as far
characters are the main part of the story of that.
as far as like American
Yeah.
kaiju movies, like it's like this and Cloverfield for me are at the top.
See, I don't like Cloverfield.
I thought Cloverfield was great.
Um,
Um, Granted, I haven't rewatched it in
I
I don't know.
haven't seen it since we saw it in theaters in like high school or whatever that was.
I think it was after high school.
Whatever it was. It's been a long time. Cloverfield was I appreciated seeing a movie from like purely the human like man on the street perspective, but like the kaiju like the monster in that was like super uninteresting and like I don't know. I didn't really get what I want out of like a giant monster movie with that.
Yeah, but I think it was different. I mean,
It
I
was
also had there's so many
yeah.
like kaiju. Like
It was an
I'm
interesting
cool with that.
like I said, it was an interesting perspective. I like to see things be different, but as far as like I have noticed I've never had any desire to revisit it. Whereas like
Yeah,
other
I
things
haven't seen it.
I would rewatch. I have rewatched like the legendary Godzilla movies now. You know, God, in 2014 like has things I really like in it, and it's just so bogged down and like just bad human characters, and like they really withhold like the things that you want from like a movie like this, whereas this one really embraces it.
Yeah, that's kind of my big issue with 2014. Like it's not like they're necessarily doing anything new. So the
Mhm.
fact that they just held Godzilla back from us for so long, and then you finally think you're gonna see him, and you see him for a second, and then they just cut to
Yeah,
the next day.
yeah.
That
Like
I almost
I like the idea of them holding back on the Godzilla stuff to make it more of an intimate human story and like where he's a disaster. But like, A, you have to give us compelling human characters. And B, once you have to finally deliver on the monster fight that you've been building up. And it came so close to doing at least that last part. If it had done that, I'd be like, all right, whatever.
so. One thing we didn't touch on, I do like in this movie how Mechagodzilla was attempting to kill Godzilla the same way Godzilla
Oh
in
yeah, where he's
2014.
like, yeah, he was gonna blast him.
Yeah, I was like, oh snap, that's
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. Then of course that's when Kong is all rejuvenated and like is able to kind of like rip him away.
Yeah,
And that's when like Godzilla and Kong are teaming up. At
yeah,
first they're like ripping like his arms, like Mechagodzilla's arms apart. I was like, oh please, just don't rip him in half and that be the end of it. And like, oh, no, then they like have to fight him and team up. And I was like, all right, this is cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
I also thought it was cool that for fans of Kong,
Mhm.
because like if you make one the winner, you stand the risk of like big fans of the other being like salty about that.
Yeah.
But I do like that like Kong was the one to defeat Mechagot to deliver. He didn't do it alone, of course,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah. He's the
he
one
like
that finally like ripped him apart because they're teaming up and his axe loses its doesn't have its power anymore. Godzilla's defeated over like he's laying on his side over like in like blocks away. Mecha Godzilla's got him like pinned up against the building. So Godzilla shoots the axe with his radioactive breath and charges it up, and then that makes it be able to cut through Mecha Godzilla's, and he just chops him into pieces, and then eventually rips his head off. It's like super satisfying to watch.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
this
do
is
like how that's like his move is to rip things heads off and
yeah. I mean,
thrust it.
he does it in the other movie too. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
I guess Godzilla's thing is to throw up in people's mouths, so that's why Mecha Godzilla was doing it.
yeah. It's a good movie.
Yeah,
Um,
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
so
Which
yeah,
I
the
there was
oh good.
wasn't guaranteed to be a thing because like I think the legendary movies are a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean overall, they're
Yeah,
not my favorite Godzilla flicks.
yeah. I like the 80s and 90s era Godzilla like block the most. Um like that series of movies. I mean, I like the Millennium stuff too, but like they're disconnected from each other.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's easier to kind of parcel out like the ones that you like the best out of those.
for sure. I yeah, I don't know what my favorite like era
I
is.
mean, I love the classic like Goofy era too. Like it's got a charm to it that like like not necessarily that you need to keep going forward. Like I'm glad that after they beat Mecha Godzilla, Godzilla didn't start jumping up and down and dancing. Um I mean, if that's a deleted scene, I would love to see it, but
That should have been the post-credit scene.
yeah. But like I love like when he's like flying around using his atomic breath as like a propeller, like propulsion and stuff. Like there's some fun stuff in that. Like I enjoyed it in a different level.
Yeah.
But I guess that's why I don't take these movies as seriously, so I didn't mind some of the shortcomings that like in a more traditional like blockbuster movie, like I might be really annoyed by. Um, but yeah, I guess it just comes down to like you got to judge each movie on its own terms. And I think what this movie set out to do, it did well. Yeah, some things could have been done better. I'm never going to argue that any of these movies are perfect. Even like the Gojira and the original King Kong, I wouldn't say are perfect movies.
Gojira's pretty close.
Yeah, but again, that I think what that movie set out to the story it wanted to tell, I think it told very well. And I think it's like the fallout of Godzilla's attack, like again, since we're a country that did not experience a nuclear attack, like I think it conveys what the horror and aftermath of that very well, where it's like, wow, this is really shitty, for lack of a
Yeah.
better term. But I don't know. I know we in talking about King of the Monsters, it's got a very pro nuclear message, because I know you feel like the Legendary series is kind of not really, it has missed the mark, I guess, on what make on Godzilla's origin.
Yeah. And it's like, not saying it's like pro nuke, but like a nuclear bomb plays a big part in saving the day in King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
And that like it is what it is. Like I don't take it too seriously, but it's like, like, do you really know what it's about? Like to the people who are like making it?
They might not be thinking about it. I mean, like they did use the oxygen destroyer, and that's why Godzilla's like dying and he needs to recharge. Like I get why like they needed like, they're like, listen, Godzilla's like powered by like nuclear bombs. Like we kind of need to power him. And granted, like it overcharges him, so we get like the burning Godzilla stuff at the end, and he does explode in in a major American city at the end because he's so overcharged. Um, yeah, and that part does also help kill Ghidorah.
Just like, oh, cool, they use the oxygen destroyer, but
Yeah.
like the thing about that from the original movie was like Sarazawa like was like, we just survived, like, you know, the country just had 2 atomic bombs. I'm not gonna like introduce this like
Yeah.
new like weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
And like Sarazawa like died with it just so it could never be made or used again.
Yeah.
And like that was powerful. And like, I mean, it also, I guess it also just like is the difference. Like Americans are like, not all Americans, obviously, but like overall, we're like, yeah, military power, go, more big weapons, you know?
Yeah, that is something that's weird about these new movies. Like the military keeps teaming up with Godzilla. So yeah, and if you look at him as like, yeah, he's the A bomb. Like it's kind of like, yeah, I get it. But at the end of the day, you do get to see a giant lizard ripping the heads off of things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like they're still enjoyable qualities to the
yeah.
movies.
I think it's coming from a more innocent place. I don't think they really realize what that is coming off as when you look at it through with that lens. And to be fair, a lot of the Godzilla movies really got away from that, like from Toho.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like what the hell was the message of Final Wars?
Yeah. It was just like, oh, Godzilla can beat all of the monsters. Which speaking
Yeah.
of Final, I guess how does this stuff compare to the last time we tried to make an American Godzilla movie?
Oh,
Godzilla
the Matthew
movie.
Broderick one?
Yeah. This might be a bold statement. I don't hate that movie.
Oh,
If
it's
it was
pretty stupid.
Oh no, it is. But if it wasn't called Godzilla and it was called like, Iguanodus, or something, like I don't think it would be as hated.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Because like, Roland Emmerich also did Independence Day, which is just as stupid, but people like it. You know what I mean?
I hear that. I mean, my big problem with that movie is like Godzilla kind of goes down like a chump.
Yeah.
And like if that's how he goes down in that movie, like why was there a movie? Like, why didn't the military just like kill him in the beginning?
Because he knows how to hide in the city, which is ridiculous.
I do think I am grateful for that movie for giving us the Saturday morning cartoon sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch that at all
I
as a
never
kid?
watched it. Yeah,
Oh,
I hear
dude,
it's good.
it's cool. And like the way they introduced Mechagodzilla in that is also really rad.
Okay, maybe I'll check it out at some point.
Because I think it's the same way the original Mechagodzilla was introduced.
Was
Like
built
it's
off
the
the bones.
body.
Yeah, the bones of the
Like,
original. Because I know the Godzilla in that is like one of the Godzilla raptors from the end of that movie, like grown up.
yeah, because like at the end of that movie, they're like, all right, we killed Godzilla and we killed all the eggs, but then it like pans away and it
Yeah,
like
like
shows
sequel
like
bait's
one
another one that
survived.
hatched. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and since it's like a baby in the cartoon, like they're able to like train it to like fight other kaiju.
Yeah, I know there's other kaiju in that, and like it works with like a human group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun experience, that cartoon.
And I know they give him his atomic breath in that, which
Yeah.
he doesn't have in the main movie. My biggest problem with that movie is just like it's so sloppy. Like Godzilla's scale keeps changing. And then once he like is in the city, like I don't know, they keep like not using him. Maybe he just gets there too soon. I don't know.
It's also like
It's the
what
Roland
is
Emmerich.
what is Godzilla's purpose? Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah, why'd he go there to nest? Or whatever that's what he's trying to do. I think the buildup in that movie is pretty cool. Um and like when he's first like in the city, like again you see him from more of the human perspective, like down low, when he's kind of like rampaging. Like that was cool. Once the military gets involved, that movie stinks.
I do like seeing Godzilla. Was that the first movie to show Godzilla kind of from that human perspective? Because I
Yeah,
guess that's the first like CG Godzilla, you know?
yeah, that's first CG Godzilla, because I think the first Toho CG one is in the Godzilla 2000 Millennium, which was sort of made in response to that movie,
Yeah, for sure.
which you get to
Um,
see him swimming in CG.
and a scene I really like. That play and like, yeah, I remember that scene like sticks out from the Millennium one. Him swimming to like the classic theme,
Yeah,
which I did kind of miss in
in Godzilla vs Kong.
yeah,
Yeah, I did too. It was used really well in the last movie,
yeah,
King of the Monsters.
that was like my favorite part when that came on for sure.
Oh yeah, that the Godzilla March theme is one of my favorite like movie themes, like full stop. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
So I was missing this, but like I didn't really miss it in the moment, if that makes any sense. I think the soundtrack was okay.
Yeah, it was fun. Nothing memorable, but
I think King of the Monsters had a much better soundtrack because it also incorporated a lot of classic, like Mothra's themes in it. Like which made it feel a little bit more diverse. But it also had like more monsters in it, like versus this one mainly had the two. And then Mechagodzilla's another form of Godzilla in a certain perspective.
yeah, true. But yeah, I know we kind of talked about how like I guess with the aftermath of like Pacific Rim really, kaiju stuff is kind of a big deal here in the West. What do you
Yeah,
want next from you want it to go away for a little bit or
if it's not going to go away a little bit, I kind of want them to do something a little bit more. I think they need to open up the world a little bit more. I think Aliens is the way to go. I don't know where I personally would take this series. I feel satisfied if they ended it here. If that makes any sense. Like I don't necessarily need more. If we do more, I want them to do things wildly different. Like the one thing I'm a little disappointed about with this series is like the world should be so fundamentally changed like after each one of these movies, but like it's still like the same basic world that we live in now. That like I'd love to see like technology be different, like how we deal with like build cities looks different. Um, I would like to see them lean more into the sci-fi aspect. I mean, it could take place like 100 years from now or something. I don't know. I think something where we can do it where it's like I think they need to do something that less realistic, less set in our reality, as much as these movies are set in our reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I wouldn't also mind just let it go dormant for a little bit. Maybe Toho makes some new movies. I would say if Toho does make new movies, I really hope this opens up the door for them coming here without as much American studio meddling, other than just translation. But like, I'm
yeah.
not opposed to them just doing subtitles and that be it.
Did you see Shin Godzilla?
No, I was about to bring it up. I still haven't gotten around to seeing it.
Oh man.
But like, that's
So
something like they took it in a completely different direction. And I think that's cool.
yeah, Kayla and I saw it in they had it in the artsy theater over here, and it was awesome to see.
Yeah.
Just like they do a real good job in that movie of like showing how like terrifying a kaiju could be.
Oh no, yeah. Like there's so many different directions you can take this stuff in. You can have like the goofy monster brawl stuff, which is fun in its own way. But like then you can have like, yeah, this would be like the worst thing to ever happen, kind of direction. Which is more in the original spirit of both Godzilla and King Kong, I guess. Where it's like, yeah, although I think there's more of a tragedy for the monster in King Kong, where it's like he's taken out of his element and it's not really his fault, but we have to kill him anyway. Whereas Godzilla is like man's hubris kind of creates this like uncontrollable disaster.
Yeah, Kong is, and I mean, like,
I mean, they're telling two very different stories.
yeah, and also from like an evolutionary aspect, it makes sense that we'd sympathize more with like a monkey.
Primate, yeah, yeah. I get that. I do think they do a good job of giving Godzilla like expressions and his own personality in these movies.
Yeah, I especially this one, I was like, oh man, like they like if this was like, I don't know, like if these were human characters, like they're still like cutting to them. I feel like moments they would cut to like human characters.
Yeah, I like that they treat them like characters.
Yeah.
And like I think they treat at least Godzilla more like a character in this than they have in the other ones in that same regard. Like there's elements of that in the other movies, but yeah, Kong and Skull Island is definitely like a character. He doesn't directly communicate with people in that one like he does in this. Like you can tell like they go out of his way. I guess it's just the primate thing, versus like giant lizard dinosaur monster, whatever Godzilla is supposed to be. But overall, like I'm glad that these movies like took off. Like after Godzilla 2014, like it could have really. I don't know how. I guess the movie did well, like box office wise, but I remember critically, like a lot of people I know were like really down on it, and like as was I.
Yeah, and I feel like the studio definitely sold people on a movie that was a little bit different than what the movie actually was.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. Like those trailers for that original movie, like still work. They're so good.
Yeah, but like, yeah, it's just like, oh, here's your human lead, Bryan Cranston. Everyone loves him right now, and then it's just like he's in there.
And like he's the best part of that movie. And then they kill him like really unceremoniously very early.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, what? Like,
Yeah.
cool. Didn't see that twist coming, but also now we're left
But
with
you weren't replaced with anything interesting. Like you're replaced with the guy who plays Kick-Ass, and he's so boring in it. And like he's everywhere. Like
oh wait, was he the guy who played Kick-Ass?
yeah, Aaron
Isn't
Taylor
he
Johnson.
also Quicksilver?
He's the original Quicksilver in Avengers. Now that we have
But in
yeah.
that movie, he's married to
They,
Elizabeth Olsen,
oh
right?
yeah. We made these comments back when that movie came out because Age of Ultron I think was like the same year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's sort of like the ultimate versions of those characters, since they were more than siblings in those books. Remember when
I
we were?
hate
Yeah,
I hate everything.
yeah,
Stupid. But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't mind if we kept getting, or maybe got a few more kaiju movies over here. I also don't want it to be like an oversaturated genre like how we have.
yeah. I like it as a niche thing. Not that it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. You gotta get more like ownership of it. Isn't like this movie works even though it falls into a lot of the same tropes and shortcomings that the genre has. But I think it's handled well enough in the ways that matter for this kind of movie that it works. And like it becomes a more prolific like genre. Like I think I think these things could be easily like fall apart and would really turn audiences off to it. um I kind of hope this opens up a new wave for like Gamera. That might be really cool. um
Yeah, I dig. And Gamera also, I mean, depending which Gamera you're looking at, but I love like Friend of the Children Gamera.
yeah,
And I'd love to see maybe not an American Gamera, but like who knows? I'd love to just see a well done Gamera
how
movie.
long ago was that like last trilogy that they did?
So
Early 2000s or was it the 90s?
I think the Gamera trilogy was in the 90s. I
Mm-hmm.
know in the early to mid 2000s, like you get like there's like this one Gamera movie where like a little boy finds like a turtle egg
Mm-hmm.
and like it hatches and it's just like a little turtle, but then it just like keeps
Keeps
getting big
growing.
and just is Gamera.
Yeah,
Um,
but I know that like trilogy's held in like really high regard.
yeah, who directed that? Was that Takashi Miike?
You would know better than me.
He's if let's see who did it. All right, maybe not. It wasn't him.
Okay. But yeah, I know the story was like the person who did that wanted to make Godzilla movies. They wouldn't let him. So he's like, well, I'll just do it my own way, like with something else. And I know that they were like really critically and commercially successful.
Yeah. And then I think they eventually got to do a Godzilla movie, right?
I believe so. I think they
Who
did.
did this?
I think he did GMK, like the most popular of the Millennium series, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, which fans shorten to GMK. But I could be completely wrong. I'm not an expert at this stuff. But maybe we'll do another podcast where we go through like
Down the rabbit hole.
yeah, we'll go down the rabbit hole a little bit more.
Yeah. I'd love to do a Gamera podcast. I mean,
I haven't watched most of the Gamera stuff, so I'd be interested in visiting that and then discussing it. But we haven't touched on this stuff a lot in the podcast as a whole, but like I really love the Godzilla series. So it'd be fun to maybe like maybe we can do like the different like eras, like the Showa era, like for an episode, the Heisei era, stuff like that. That might be fun to do. I might finally get to see Shin Godzilla. I know I know Sean's really into that but he also loves the guy who does Neo Genesis Evangelion, who did that movie. I don't remember his. I'm bad with names.
Hidekiano.
Yeah, I hated Ava, so we'll see. That's why I didn't like rush out to see it. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
Yeah, he's also, his next project is Shin Ultraman.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm stoked to see what it's all about.
Yeah, I don't know how you make Ultraman like a horror thing. I mean, obviously he doesn't have to do that with it.
So, as an Ultraman fan, maybe you should try to watch Evangelion again. It's kind of, if you look at it in a certain way, it's kind of like it is Ultraman.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of wanted to revisit it, Ava, at some point because a lot of people don't really like it, and on paper I should like it.
Let's do an Ava podcast.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll do that as the next watches sub series once Falcon and Winter Soldier is over. But at the time when it was coming out, I really, really could not stand the characters in it. And,
well, they're not good people.
well, like, so it's just like I don't know. Maybe I was that was also like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
my sensibilities have changed. It's just one of those things, like the way people talk about it, and like it's been really off-putting for a very long time for me. Maybe I'll watch Shin Godzilla, love it, and then want to revisit that more. But I think the next show I'm going to watch is probably Invincible, which just started.
Oh yeah,
as I know we used to read that back in the day and very much enjoy it.
It was a wonderful comic for a very long time.
Yeah, I used to call it the most consistent superhero comic on shelves. And then The Walking Dead took off, and Robert Kirkman's priorities, you could tell, shifted.
Yeah, I'd like to reread it and then actually finish it. But
yeah, I would like to do the same thing because it might read better without being a monthly book now.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in it because it was amazing. But
I'm curious to see
I'll save that for an Invincible podcast.
Yeah, I am curious to see how they're going to adapt the crossover multiverse episode, like story.
Oh,
Since
God,
I'm sure they're not going to actually go to Marvel and stuff this time.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But
it would be cool if they like go to other Image things like Spawn and stuff.
That would be rad.
Like I think the show's got a lot of really, the series has a lot of really cool stuff in it. I'm very excited to check it out. But yeah, since we're getting, I think it covered all the topics I wanted to hit in GVK, Dawn of Kai Justice. I don't know. Is there anything else you think we needed to hit that you didn't yet?
No, I don't think so. Great film.
I know it's doing very well, as much as a movie can be doing now. So, which means we'll probably get more. I just don't know where I'd want the series to go. All of the main Godzilla things I'd want them to adapt, they've adapted. I mean, as cool as it would be to see, like Gigan and Anguirus and like a lot of the other characters we haven't had. I don't know. Maybe they surprised us with something new. Like the Muto was something new in the first movie, and on paper, like I think that thing could have been pretty cool. Just that movie had a lot of other problems bogging down the monster stuff.
Yeah, I would love to see, and yeah, like I said earlier, maybe space is involved, but there's also like the Hollow Earth.
Yeah,
it's like pretty untapped. We got to see a little bit of it, and it was really rad.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things that could be happening down there.
Yeah,
maybe instead of aliens from space, it's like, oh, some offshoot of humanity got stuck down there like hundreds of thousands of years ago, and like maybe they evolved into something else now. And that's a good excuse to like get Kong involved, being like, he's down there, and they have a new Monarch outpost down there with like his, human friends and stuff. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Oh, one thing I did want to touch on.
Yeah,
Um, the casting of Gia.
that's the little girl, right?
Yeah, I thought that was really rad. Like she's like the actress is deaf, and like I think like we'd read that like 4 generations of her like family, like it's like a genetic
Like deafness.
yeah. So I don't know. That was cool. That
That's
like
cool.
you're gonna get someone for that role in a big blockbuster. Like,
and I think she did a good job as like a little act. Like she'd still like act and stuff, via the face and mannerisms, of course. I mean, I don't, for lack of a better term, speak sign language, so I'm not. I can't verify the accuracy, but if she actually is deaf, I'm sure it was all like legit.
yeah. I can't see it not being legitimate. But yeah, I thought that was rad.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Glad they had that representation there.
Yeah. And I assume she like looks like she's of like Pacific origin.
I don't know.
But because I know Skull Island's just like somewhere. I don't know how close it is to any like major population centers, but I know in their world, like the natives there are very like isolated.
Word.
But yeah, give Skull Island a shot. It was a lot better than I think I thought it was going to be. Because like you see John C. Reilly and stuff like being goofy and things in the trailers, I'm like, but like it's good. Check it out. It's also like a murderer's row of like Marvel actors. It's got
Really?
Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, Samuel L. Jackson, John Goodman's in it. Yeah, it's a lot of faces you'd recognize. It's a lot of fun. I remember watching it and being like, tonally it's so much lighter and different, like more fun than the other two Godzilla movies. I was kind of worried or curious of how it was going to mesh in this. I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, works for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool.
All right, so I think we'll end it here. Kendall, where can they find you online?
Who knows anymore? Go to Star Saver Bunny on Instagram for me and my wife's Magical Girl webcomic that I plug every time I'm on this podcast.
Yeah.
Which feels like every week now.
I know, especially since you're also doing the Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff a little bit.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah, I haven't watched that show, which is why that's Harry's thing instead of mine. Follow us on levelupentertainment.com. We're Level Up Entertainment on like all social media platforms, but if you go to our main website, you'll be able to see all episodes of this podcast along with all of our other exciting news, and you can shop our store and stuff there. We're about to open up our second location in Summers Point, which is really exciting. In fact, that's probably what I'm going to wind up doing later today, is going over there and helping fix up some of the fixtures and stuff so we can get ready to open as soon as possible. But yeah, so until next time, be safe.